Have you ever just paused for a second with a glass of wine in your hand and really wondered what's going on in there? I mean, that beautiful color, all those complex smells, the way it feels in your mouth, all of that started way, way before it ever got near a bottle. So, what's the deal? How does a simple little berry hanging on a vine become this thing we all love so much? It's a pretty amazing transformation. Okay, let's get into it and really uncover the story from the inside out. You see, the story doesn't start in a fancy cellar or a big oak barrel. Nope, it starts at an almost microscopic level, right inside the grape itself. So first up, we've got to understand the blueprint. What are the basic building blocks that a winemaker gets to play with? At first glance, it seems pretty simple, right? You've got the skin, the pulp, and the seeds. But each of these parts plays a completely different and totally essential role in what that final wine is going to taste like. And what's wild is that the pulp makes up almost all of the grape's weight, like 85%. But here's the secret. That other little 15%, the skin and the seeds, that is where all the magic happens. That's where wine's real character is hiding. The skin is so much more than just a protective wrapper. It's a full-on flavor factory. It has this waxy coating called pruna that's actually covered in wild yeasts that can start fermentation all on their own. And of course, the skin itself is where you find the anthocyanins. That's what gives red wine its color. It's also the source of tannins, which give the wine its structure. And on top of all that, it holds the key aromatic compounds. The skin is basically the wine's whole personality. So if the skin is the personality, then the pulp is the engine room. Yeah, it's mostly water, but it is packed with the two things fermentation needs to get going: sugar, which the yeast turns into alcohol, and acids, which give the wine freshness and backbone. That acid is what keeps a wine from tasting, flat and boring. And finally, we have the seeds. Now, winemakers are super, super careful with these guys. Why? Because they are loaded with bitter tannins and oils. If you crush them, all that bitterness gets into the wine. So the goal is to get all the amazing stuff from the skin and pulp without breaking open these little bitter cores. So here's the bottom line. Everything we just talked about, the color from the skin, the sugar from the pulp, it all gets transferred into the juice when the grapes are crushed. That juice, which is called must, is the raw material that becomes the wine you drink. It all gets used. Okay, so we've looked at the anatomy of the grape. Now, let's zoom out. Let's go from the single berry to the entire vineyard and see how these parts actually develop over a full year. A grapevine follows this really predictable cycle every single year. It's dormant and resting in the winter, it wakes up in the spring, it flowers in early summer, and then it spends the rest of the season ripening its fruit for the fall harvest before it goes back to sleep. This rhythm is the heartbeat of any vineyard. And you can see just how much happens as the vine wakes up. It goes from a seemingly lifeless winter bud to pushing out all these vibrant green shoots and leaves. It's basically building its solar panels to soak up all that summer sun. Right after that first burst of green, these tiny, delicate flowers show up. They don't look like much, but this is one of the most critical moments of the year. Every single one of these little flowers, if it gets pollinated, will become a single great berry. The vine has grown. The flowers have turned into little berries, but the real transformation, the most incredible part, is about to begin. And that brings us to a process with a very special name, veraison. This is it. This is the true climax of the grape's entire growing season. So, to put it simply, veraison is the moment the vine literally flips a switch. It stops focusing on growing leaves and shoots and instead pours all of its energy into ripening the fruit. For red grapes, this is the moment they start to get that beautiful color. Now, this chart explains everything. Find that dotted line at the bottom for veraison. See how before that point the grapes are just these little green acid bombs? But look what happens right after. The acid level just plummets. And at the exact same time, the sugars and those color compounds, the anthocyanins, they just skyrocket. It's this great exchange that creates a perfectly ripe, balanced grape. So we've seen the parts of the grape, and we've followed the vine's journey through the whole year. Let's connect those two stories right now.
And this is where it all clicks. That whole ripening process, that veraison shift, is what develops the color and tannins in the skin. It's what turns the pulp from an acid bank into a sugar warehouse. Everything matures together in perfect harmony.
So let's recap the whole cycle in 4 simple steps. 1, the vine builds its engine with leaves. 2, the tiny flowers create the berries. 3, the vine flips the switch from acid to sugar. And 4, it spends the autumn perfecting that fruit, creating the ideal balance of sugar, acid, and flavor for the harvest. And really, that's the main takeaway here. The final quality of a wine isn't just decided in the winery. It is a direct reflection of this entire year-long journey, influenced by every sunny day and every cool night. So the next time you pour a glass of wine, remember that journey. You're not just tasting fermented grape juice. You're tasting a whole year in the life of a vineyard. You're tasting the sun, the soil, the skin, the pulp, and the incredible magic of that ripening transformation. So, what story is your next glass going to tell you?